The Mokele Mbembe is a legendary creature said to live in the Congo Basin of Africa. This region is known for its dense rainforest and extensive river systems, making it a perfect place for a creature to stay hidden for an indefinite amount of time. The Mokele Mbembe is often described as a giant dinosaur-like animal, which again just makes me question mainstream science and what it claims to be capable of. And you should start questioning it too, because imagine a creature so big that it could be as large as a boat and has a long neck that stretches high above the water. And this massive creature was seen by people that probably didn't see Jurassic Park and probably don't spend that much time in dinosaur museums. Not only have locals seen this behemoth, but also a man considered to be very well educated. People who tell stories about Mokele Mbembe describe it as having a long, slender neck and a small head. It's said to resemble a brontosaurus. The brontosaurus had a massive body and an extremely long neck, which allowed it to reach vegetation and the highest of trees. Mokele Mbembe is said to be just as enormous, with a gray or brown body. Some people believe that Mokele Mbembe could be as large as a boat, making it a truly gigantic creature. And considering that there's not really anything else that large in the Congo, what is it that these people are really seeing? The Congo Basin is a huge area covered in thick jungle and intersected by many rivers. It's home to many animals and plants that aren't found anywhere else in the world. This mysterious and remote environment is the perfect home for monsters such as the Mokele Mbembe. Local people who live near these rivers have shared many stories about this creature over the years, and a couple of those encounters of specific individuals I'll be going over in a little bit, but first, I want to tell you about some of the more obscure encounters. One popular story of the Congo tells of a villager who saw a massive creature in the river. The villager described the creature as having a long neck and a large body, similar to the dinosaurs seen in books. When the creature moved, it caused big splashes in the water, making the river turn murky and hard to see. The villager was only able to catch a quick glimpse before the creature disappeared into the water. This story is just one of many accounts from locals who believe they have seen Mokele Mbembe. Another story involves a group of fishermen who were working on the river. They reported seeing large, unusual tracks in the mud along the riverbanks. The tracks were much larger than those of any known animal in the area. The fishermen believe that these tracks were left by Mokele Mbembe. They described the tracks as being very wide and deep, indicating that the creature was enormous. Some stories even talk about mysterious sounds heard at night. Local people have reported hearing loud splashes and strange growling noises coming from the river. These sounds are often described as being very frightening and unusual. When people went to investigate, they saw large disturbances in the water, but could not clearly identify what was causing them. And what I really want to stress to all of you is this: these are not city folks going off on a hike in a national park. These people have lived almost all of their lives, if not all of their lives, in these areas. They're aware of the wildlife that lives in the area, and they're no stranger to dangerous encounters. These people know much better than an outsider what is and is not in the waters. So let's get into the people that have come forward and are willing to put their name on these encounters. Oh, and grab you some popcorn and a pickle, because they're long stories but definitely worth hearing. Jean-Pierre is a man who lives in a small village by the Congo River in Africa. His village is surrounded by a thick jungle, and the river is an important part of their lives. The Congo River is big and slow-moving, and it helps the villagers with fishing, drinking water, and traveling. He loves fishing in this river, knows it well, and spends hours and hours every day catching fish. Now, the river can be calm, but sometimes it can be surprising with sudden changes. One sunny afternoon, Jean-Pierre decided to go fishing. He got a small wooden boat ready and paddled out into the river. The day was warm, and the jungle was alive with sounds of birds and animals, but soon, there'd be something else. So he makes his way out in the hope of catching a lot of fish and having a great day, but after fishing for a while without much luck, Jean-Pierre decided to try a different spot in the river. He moved to a deeper section where the water was darker and less clear. This area was quieter and not used as much by the other villagers. While in this dark section of the river, he noticed something strange. The water around his boat started to move in a big way. Huge waves began crashing against his boat, making it rock back and forth, and as you can expect, Jean was surprised and worried because he had never seen waves like this before. This wasn't the coast, and it wasn't storming. The water became very muddy and cloudy, making it hard to see clearly. Jean-Pierre looked carefully to figure out what was causing the big waves, when suddenly he saw a huge, long shape in the water. It had a long neck and a small head. The shape was big and grayish, and it looked like something from a movie, as if he had gone back to a land before time. For only a moment, Jean-Pierre saw the big shape clearly. It had a long neck stretching high above the water. The creature's body was very large, and it seemed to be moving around in the river. But before he could see more, the shape disappeared back into the water. He was amazed and a bit scared because he had never seen anything like this before. The creature looked like something from the old stories he had been told when he was a child. The stories about Mokele Mbembe. When it was time to go back, Jean-Pierre paddled his boat slowly back to the village, and like most people would be, he was excited and couldn't wait to tell everyone about what he had just seen. But he was also a bit worried that they might not believe him. After all, it was only a brief glimpse of something strange. Perhaps it could have been a massive anaconda if they lived in the Congo, which they don't. When Jean-Pierre got to the village, he gathered his friends and family and told them about the huge creature in the river. He described how it had a long neck, a big body, and made huge waves. Some people in the village were excited and believed him, while others were skeptical because they hadn't seen it themselves. Jean-Pierre's story spread quickly, and many people started talking about it. The legend of Mokele Mbembe, the giant river creature, became more interesting with Jean-Pierre's encounter. It made people wonder more about what might be living in the rivers of the Congo. And this encounter had a really big effect on him and his village. The sighting made some villagers think that the Mokele Mbembe might actually be there. It also made people more curious about the mysterious creature. But for Jean-Pierre, the experience was both strange and thrilling. The experience made him believe that there are many things in the world that are still a mystery, and where mystery lies, I'm just kidding, we're not nearly done. But Jean-Pierre also wanted to share his story with others because he hoped that by talking about his encounter, he could inspire other people to explore and learn about the world. The legend of Mokele Mbembe continued to be a source of wonder and excitement for many people, and thanks to people like Jean-Pierre, his story and the next one we're about to go over holds so much more weight, because if we honestly think about it, what does he have to gain? Jean-Pierre is a fisherman in a village, not an influencer in California. If he had gone to his village and shared his story, and only a small portion of them believed him, he'd be an outcast, a kook, the village idiot. You risk a lot more by coming forward about saying something that's odd than you do just keeping your mouth shut. In the US, people act like morons every day and it works out for them, but that's not what this is about. I can't help but feel that the villagers coming forward means they truly saw what they claim to have seen, because they know the area, they know the river, they know the wildlife, and they know the risk of being an outcast by saying something that goes against the grain of normality. Similar to Jean-Pierre, Marie also lives in a small village near the Congo River in Africa, surrounded by thick jungle. One evening as the sun was setting and the sky grew dark, Marie was at home with her family. The only light came from the moon filtering through the trees. The river, normally calm and peaceful, began to make unusual noises. Instead of the usual sounds from fish splashing or birds calling, Marie heard heavy splashes and deep growls coming from the river. With these sounds, she began to feel a mixture of curiosity and unease. She heard local legends about mysterious creatures living in the river, but had never experienced anything like this before. The strange noises continued, and Marie decided to investigate what might be causing them. Marie peered out of the window to see what was happening. The river looked disturbed, with large ripples and waves forming on the surface. The water seemed to be churning, making it difficult to see clearly. But despite the darkness, Marie noticed a large shape moving through the river. The shape was big and grayish, and it seemed to be moving slowly, creating powerful waves. Marie could barely make out the details, but it was clear that whatever it was It was enormous. The shape seemed to match descriptions she had heard about Mokele Mbembe. And again, I want to point out, Marie lives here. She's aware of hippos and other large forms of wildlife in the Congo. It's not likely you're going to mistake this thing for something that it's not. Marie's heart raced as she continued to watch from her window. The creature's growling sounds and the size and the shape in the river were both intimidating but fascinating. She felt a mixture of fear and wonder, unsure of what she was seeing. The creature moved with great force, causing the water to splash and froth. And as the night wore on, the noises began to fade and the water calmed. The large shape gradually disappeared, leaving the river quiet once again. Marie was left with a sense of amazement and curiosity, wondering about the mysterious creature she had just seen. And the next morning, Marie told her family and shared of her experience. She described the strange noises, the deep growls, and the large shape she had seen moving in the river. Her family listened intently, but their reactions were a bit mixed. Some were intrigued and believed her account, while others were skeptical because, again, they didn't see it, so they believed she was mistaken in what she claimed she saw. Marie's story quickly spread throughout the entire village, and people talked about it and started to think more about the possibility of a dinosaur-like creature living in the Congo River. Now, it's said that Marie often reflects on the mysterious noises and the large shape that she saw in the river, and that she also wonders if it truly was Mokele Mbembe, or if there could be just some rational explanation to what she saw. But regardless, her encounter reinforced her belief that there are still many mysteries in the world, and where mystery lies. So again, we have someone putting their neck, name, and reputation out on the line to share this experience. If she was lying, then again, she'd kind of be put on the list of people to shun from the village. So I personally don't believe that she made this up. I also really don't think that this was a hippo, because while it is a massive creature, I don't believe it can make the giant waves she was describing. Maybe I'm wrong, but you let me know what you think down in the comments. And now we come to Dr. Charles's encounter. Dr. Charles is a scientist who loves exploring and studying wildlife. He's known for his work in discovering and learning about different animals, especially in remote areas. And one of the most interesting legends he came across was about a mysterious creature called Mokele Mbembe. So, curious to find out more, Dr. Charles decided to investigate this legend himself. He wanted to see if this Mokele Mbembe was real or if it was just a story. So he and his team set out for the Congo River Basin, since that's where all the sightings have been. Dr. Charles and his team arrived at the Congo River Basin during the rainy season, which made traveling through the dense jungle and navigating the river difficult, to say the least. They set up their base camp near the river and started their research, taking samples and setting up equipment to monitor the area. The jungle was alive with strange sounds and sights, and the river was wide and slow moving. Some parts of the river were murky and hard to see through, meaning finding this monster would be challenging, to say the least. But after several weeks of research, Dr. Charles and his team noticed unusual disturbances in the water. These disturbances were different from the usual fish movements or other animals they had seen before. The water would bubble and ripple in a way that suggested something big was causing it. One day, while they were out on the river in a small boat, Dr. Charles saw something intriguing. The water began to churn and create large ripples. The team carefully approached the area to investigate what was causing these unusual movements. As they got closer, they saw a large dark shape moving beneath the water. The shape was huge and created strong waves as it moved. Dr. Charles was, of course, excited, because the shape looked just like the description he had heard about the Mokele Mbembe. Dr. Charles and his team waited to get a better view of the creature, and after a few minutes, the shape began to emerge from the water. They saw a long grayish body and a neck that stretched out of the water. The creature's head was large but small compared to its body. The creature moved slowly and the water around it splashed and foamed. Dr. Charles and his team were amazed at what they saw. The creature seemed to match the legends of Mokele Mbembe, and its size was pretty impressive. Unfortunately, the sighting was brief. The creature quickly went back underwater and the water calmed down. The doctor and his team tried to follow it, but the creature was gone, and the water returned to its normal state. After the sighting, Dr. Charles and his team collected samples and took measurements from the area where the creature was seen. They carefully documented the water disturbances and took photos of the ripples and the waves. They also gathered any biological samples that might help them identify the creature. The evidence they collected was exciting, to say the least, but without a photo or video of it, it's essentially a case of, I saw something, but I can't prove it. Even though they didn't get a clear image of the creature, the water disturbances and the samples provided at least lends credence that there is something out there. He believes that the evidence suggested the possibility of a large, unknown, undocumented animal living in the river. When Dr. Charles returned from his expedition, he shared his findings with the scientific community. His story and the evidence he collected sparked a lot of interest and discussion. Some of the scientists were excited about the possibility of discovering a new species, while others were skeptical and wanted more proof. But Dr. Charles's experience with the Mokele Mbembe really just adds a lot of excitement to this legend. And I really hope that it makes people think more about the legendary creature that could be living in the rivers of the Congo. Because we're not just talking about, some random person who went on a hike in the woods. We're talking about a doctor. We're talking about people that live in this area that have seen this creature. But anyway, his findings were published in scientific journals, and he talked about his encounter in lectures and interviews, but despite Dr. Charles's findings, the mystery of Mokele Mbembe remains unsolved. The creature, if it exists, is still elusive and hard to study. Dr. Charles's encounter is one of the many that keeps the legend alive and makes people curious about what might be hidden in the river. Now, he actually believes that there are still many mysteries to uncover in the natural world. His encounter with the Mokele Mbembe serves as a reminder that even in well-studied areas, there are still unknowns waiting to be discovered. And he's not the only one to set out on a quest to find this elusive monster either. The search for Mokele Mbembe has attracted many explorers and scientists. These adventurers have embarked on numerous expeditions to try to find proof that this creature exists. And just so you get a taste of it, here's some of the more notable searches. In the 1980s, a group of explorers went on an expedition to the Congo River Basin. I think I'm just going to start saying Congo because it's easier to say, and I think you get where I'm talking about. They were determined to find evidence of Mokele Mbembe based on the stories from local people. The team interviewed many villagers and gathered information about the creature. During their search, they discovered large tracks in the mud along the riverbanks. The tracks were bigger than those of any known animal in the area. Although the team could not conclusively identify the tracks as belonging to Mokele Mbembe, I think it means something's out there for sure. Now, in the 1990s, another team of researchers ventured into the Congo with the goal of finding Mokele Mbembe. They used modern technology such as cameras and other equipment to capture evidence of the creature. The team observed large disturbances in the water and noticed unusual patterns on the surface. Despite their efforts, they were unable to get a clear picture of the creature. The researchers collected data and analyzed it, but no definitive proof was ever found. And even today, the search for Mokele Mbembe continues with the help of new technology. Drones and underwater cameras are now being used to explore the Congo Basin. These advanced tools allow researchers to cover large areas and gather more detailed information. While some strange and unexplained observations have been made, no clear evidence of Mokele Mbembe has been found so far. The mystery of the creature continues to fascinate people, and the search remains ongoing. Who knows, maybe it'll be you that discovers the Mokele Mbembe. Now, the scientific community has different opinions about Mokele Mbembe. Some scientists believe that the stories about the creature might be based on real animals that lived a long time ago. For example, they think that Mokele Mbembe could be inspired by dinosaurs or other large prehistoric creatures. These scientists suggest that the legend might be a remnant of ancient stories about animals that once roamed the earth. Other scientists believe that the stories could be myths or exaggerations. They argue that the tales about Mokele Mbembe might have been created to explain unusual or mysterious events in the natural world. And according to this view, people might have been seeing something strange and made up stories to make sense of it. Some scientists also think that the stories could be based on real animals, but the details have been distorted over time. Now, despite these theories, some scientists argue that the possibility of Mokele Mbembe being real cannot be completely ruled out. They point out the fact that there are still many unknowns in the natural world, and that new discoveries are being made all of the time. If Mokele Mbembe is real, it could be a previously unknown species or a surviving relic from the past. I know you're probably going to think I'm a kook for this, but I think it's possible dinosaurs may have survived. You see, the stories about Mokele Mbembe lead to exciting possibilities about the existence of dinosaurs or similar creatures. If this monster is real, it might suggest that some dinosaurs or their relatives are still alive today. This would of course be an incredible discovery and would change our understanding of the natural world and the science that claims to be able to explain it. The idea that dinosaurs might still be around is absolutely thrilling because it means that there could be amazing creatures living in hidden parts of the world. The Congo Basin is a vast and mysterious place, and it's possible that unknown animals could be living there. If the Mokele Mbembe is a real creature, it would show that science does not have all of the answers, and that there are still many mysteries to uncover. The possibility that dinosaurs or similar creatures could still exist challenges what we know about the history of life on Earth. It reminds us that even with our advanced technology and knowledge, there are still many things we do not understand. As the search for Mokele Mbembe continues on, It's a reminder that we should all continue exploring and studying the natural world to discover new and amazing things that we truly have yet to find the truth behind. So I'm sure there's a few nerds out there smacking on their keyboard saying,
"There's no way dinosaurs are still around. They died a bajillion years ago."
"Oh hey, calm down, you weenie." Truth is, the science we're taught claims to be 100% factual, but if you go down the rabbit hole of how these dates are actually calculated, you realize it's all a theory based on a dozen other theories that are all based on misconceptions or disproven theories. I have a whole video on radiometric dating if you're interested, but I doubt it. You probably already made up your mind about what you think. But what you may find interesting though is that this isn't the only dinosaur type creature people have seen. There's the thunderbirds the Native Americans claim to have seen, like that of the Argentavis magnificens, the prairie devils of Texas that resemble realistic velociraptors, the Partridge Creek monster in Russia that resembles a Uranus, the pteranodon seen in New Mexico, Arizona, and a lot more. The world is not as bland and basic and documented like some would have you believe. It's an absolute wonder, and I hope that spirit of adventure is something that you can take with you in your everyday life. And if not that, I at least hope you enjoy the mysteries of the world, because where mystery lies, adventure awaits. If you like what I do and you want to help support me, then the best way to do that is by joining the community on Patreon. I upload videos early and I post when I can, and it goes a long way in supporting the channel. But if you're not into that, then just check out this video YouTube seems to think you'll love, and I'll see you there.